Hello, this is Dr. Stevel and Bigglesworth. I have taken Christian Harloff to a hidden secret layer, and I will need $1 billion to reveal where he is. Just kidding. He's not feeling well. So I'm taking over the show with PLD and the help of Brett. A reminder, we're going to have a great show, but we are on the road to 100,000 subscribers. So if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We have so many great shows on this channel, and we really want to get to 100,000. And we thank you for your support. We also would love if you hit that subscribe on Spotify. We are always uploading new episodes on Spotify for the big thing. And we have some very cool merch. Sith Council merch is obviously my favorite, and that Top Gun, the Top Gun guy, Mike's not here, but you know what I mean. The links are all in the description below. But the most important link for today is we are going live at Flappers with all of the homies. The tickets are available now, April 28th, Friday. It's going to be amazing. We are so excited. This show is going to be absolutely nuts. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, do so already. And we are live for the Sith Council. So this is a really special show. We can't wait to hear from y'all. We're going to be talking The Mandalorian, The Bad Batch, some Ahsoka news, and some Acolyte news. This is the Sith Council.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
Hello, welcome back. Happy hump day. We are excited to be here. I'm with PLD and I'm with Brett is BTS helping us with the tech and being a legend as always. But we are live, so this means that we actually get to hear from you. Once we cover most of our news, we would love to get your super chat questions in, whatever is on the top of your mind. Throw those babies in and we will answer them to the best of our knowledge, if that's what you want to call what we have going on today. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. We had a great episode of The Mandalorian, another episode of The Bad Batch, and some light news in the Star Wars world. Not too much, but Jodie Turner Smith, who's going to be in the Acolyte, gave some little clues into what's going on in the Acolyte and working with the director Koganada. So I'm Steph Sabraw, if you didn't know that already. But I want to introduce my main guy for today, PLD. Where you at?
Hey, it's me, it's PLD. What's going on, guys?
Hey PLD. We haven't done well, we did our live announcement show on Friday together with the
Yes,
whole crew, so I got to see you there. But just you and me, I don't know if we've had the pleasure.
I know. I think it goes back to the FCL days. We did do a match with the FCL days back in the day, but that was a long, long
Yeah.
time ago as far as this is concerned.
Oh
This is a
yeah, we
totally different
did you
animal.
and me. You're right. That we did have some you and me. I take back everything I've said.
Well,
Um
it's okay. I'm not very memorable. I get it. I understand.
Yeah, but hey y'all, Mike Joyce, Thrawn 2K5, Bruce Crawford, Marcus, Simone's, Eli Martin, Clone Force 99, everyone in the chat, Jimmy Comer, we appreciate you. We're gonna have a really great show. And as I said before, we are live, so we would love to get your super chats in and we would love to answer any questions, or if you just have comments or something to say, I love that too. But we're going to start off the show with just talking about this newest episode of The Mandalorian, The Pirate. Just overall thoughts, and then we'll get into kind of scene by scene, main scene, and break it down. But for me, I really loved what they were trying to do. I loved like the interconnectedness of the different things that they had been kind of showing us and telling us in the prior episodes, and then it kind of coming to this moment where I'm like, okay, I get where the season's going and I get where it's going to pick up. I wasn't that impressed and like oohed and awed with the execution. I hate to be like that because I'm usually like a really happy viewer, but for some reason, some of the edits or the coloring or the way it was shot felt a little weird to me. I don't know if you felt that way at all, but I loved the music and I loved the ending explosions. Obviously, I thought that was really fun. And I loved what it's doing to set up the next episodes, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. What were your just initial thoughts in the episode?
I've always been very positive Star Wars guy. I love Star Wars in every which way, shape, or form. If you don't know me very well, I think that the Mandalorian has gotten some bad shakes this season. Some people are it's kind of a little divisive. Some people feel like there's a little lack of direction, lack of focus. I actually would like to disagree with that on an entirely different schedule for everybody else. I feel like the Mandalorian set itself up very well the first two seasons to be event showcasing. And that's what we're used to now. We're used to these event shows like Last of Us, one from point A to point B. That's what it is. This time, I think the Mandalorian is taking a little bit of a step back because if you think about where we are, the prequel trilogy, the Clone Wars era has the prequel trilogy. The Galactic Civil War has the original trilogy. Obviously, the War with the First Order has the sequel trilogy. The Mandalorian really is the prime real estate to set up what exactly this entire galaxy is going through at this point, the whole universe as a whole. So since the Mandalorian has taken that step forward to create itself to get like a foot in, now it can kind of take a step back and become that prime piece of real estate where we don't just learn about the Mandalorian and Din and Grogu's adventures. They're still central to it, obviously. But we get to learn so much more as we set up to this potentially big spin-off with Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, perhaps some kind of climactic event. And I really feel that this is the episode where I think it's hitting at home exactly what it wants to do. We have an end game for the season, but you're also setting up this big event coming into play. I love what this thing's doing.
Yeah, I think that is a good point of view of the show. I really do think that I said it on the showcase episode with all of us on Friday. Like a lot of people aren't as obsessed with this season as prior seasons. And to me, it's kind of I've shifted into like this season is just lighter and more fun, even though there are a lot of stakes. So I'm not upset about it at all. I still really love it and I enjoyed last night's episode. There's just a part of me that's like, damn, I wish it was a little grittier, I guess, and maybe that's just coming off the back of Andor, and we got that darkness, that grittiness of the show where there's moments of this episode where I'm like, I feel like this should feel a lot more serious than it is, and I don't know if it's the way it was shot, but it starts with Grief Karga. He's doing his planning like the boss he is. He's like in boss mode of the planet, and the Captain Gorian shard comes back, I like this in the sense of what you're saying. It sets up kind of where we are in the galaxy. We see that there are planets that haven't joined with the New Republic, and it leaves them unprotected from different people like these pirates. And I feel like Grief Karga to me is such a like he's so cool that I feel like his character would have planned a little better for this.
That's High Magistrate Grief Karga, by the way. High Magistrate.
Right, right. My bad, my bad. High Magistrate Grief Karga. And so I liked like the Princess Leia type message that he sends out. I think that's like giving really great shine to A New Hope. But it feels like this is Apollo. Like I feel like he would have had something set up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems like he did try. I think that's what he tried to do with Din in the beginning, getting him to be a marshal there. But as a former guild person, he does feel like he should have a little more in space. Maybe he put a little too much stock into his own bounty hunting days and his own bounty hunter crews. Maybe he's a little arrogant. No one's going to attack me. I'm Grief effing Karga, you know? That's partially what it is.
Totally.
I also like what you said about the callback to A New Hope. I think this show does that very well in subtle ways as well as overt ways. We get these little callbacks. It's like a poetry and rhymes, that kind of thing that George Lucas always says. Always get those nice little tossbacks there. But it does set up everything we need to know about Navarro, and it brings home everything we have to know about the Mandalorian coming in later on. I love that we get to know that the New Republic is out there, but it's kind of reminding of last episode where we go, is this are they as bad as the old boss, same boss, the Empire? Are they that
Yeah,
much better? I don't know.
I like the convolutedness there, and I think that that's a smart way to project the politics that are happening in the galaxy right now, that there are different sectors and there's different intensities and allegiances being formed. But I get why they did it this way, where Grief Karga sends out a message, because it's delivered to Captain Carson Teva, who I love. If you watched what's the show called? It's like one of my favorite
Kim's
shows.
Convenience.
Yes, if you watch Kim's Convenience, you know the range of this actor,
Yes.
because from being this rebel pilot to this dad in the show, it's so fun to watch him, and I'm so glad that we got him back. And I think it's really cool in season 3 we're getting some characters that we got for very slight moments in season 1 and 2, and
Right.
kind of having these extended moments of actual importance that lead to a greater scale. And then obviously it gave the big reveal of having Zeb Aurelius in his first live action appearance. What did you think about that connection and how he looked in live action? Because I was like, is that Zeb? And then he talked. I'm like, okay, that's Zeb.
My jaw hit the ground, and I tried to convince myself it wasn't. I'm like, they're not doing that yet, is it? That must be another Lestat, right? That's just a drawing in
Right,
Ford.
right.
But you hear the voice, you're like, that is
That's
Carapace,
Steve
that is
Bloom.
Zeb.
Yeah.
That's Steve Bloom doing Zeb. And I love the fact that, I love that they're doing that. It's another dropping, it's a creating of an animated character being brought into live action. I thought he looked fantastic. I was surprised at how articulate it looked. I had no complaints about that as far as I'm concerned. But beyond that, I love what that means, because we all know what's happening with Ahsoka. We know that Ahsoka is, a de facto Rebels sequel series. We know from what we've heard, getting Sabine in there. We've had Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera coming potentially. This is starting in that momentum. Zeb is a part of the Rangers of the New Republic, as it were, and that's what I want to know, is how to get here. Because last we saw him, he was with Callus on the homeworld
Right.
of the new homeworld of the Lestat. So how did he get back? I want to know that story. That's what I love about Star Wars as a whole. They always drip feed you this stuff, and like, well, I want to know more about that. Let's see also more about that. Now we get to get those bigger stories later on.
I know. I was like, are we gonna get other crew members that are shown here? But honestly, in hindsight, showing Zeb was enough, because Zeb wasn't announced. It
Right.
hasn't been announced in Ahsoka. Now
Right.
this is kind of a pretty clear announcement that Zeb is going to be live action in Ahsoka. And it was interesting watching Zeb's character, because Zeb is clearly CGI.
Right.
And comparatively to a lot of the pirates that we see intertwined into this episode, a lot of those are practical effects and costume and makeup characters.
Right.
And so I was a little like, at first, like, I'm like, Zeb looks kind of weird, but then I looked back and I'm like, Zeb looks kind of awesome. And so I think of my brain just like filtering all the different effects that these Star Wars shows are now bringing to us, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, it's always different, because we see him in animated and see him in live action. It's going to be different anyway, because it's not exactly the same. It's not exactly the same color tone exactly. But at the end of the day, you get that like first like, oh, that's weird, because it's not what I know. But then when you look back, it's like, yeah, but it's still good. It still sells me on who this character is. So I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then going back really quickly, so we get this message that's sent to Captain Carson.
Yep.
And but the scene when this is so nitpicky. I hate to do this, but I'm doing it because I'm live with y'all and I really want to spill the tea of all my emotions. The scene when Grief Karga is getting everybody out, they're all like trying to find shelter and safety outside of the city while it's getting blown into smithereens, which also the pirates are so stupid. You guys want to inhabit this planet, this location, and you're blowing up the place you want to be in? Idiots. But anyways, so when they're running out, like it looked okay. First of all, I feel like the episode lacked a little bit of intensity, I guess. like it feels like a really big deal for an entire planet or like section of the planet to be trying to flee and find shelter. And then the way they shot it, it looked like there was like 20 people on set.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is your whole city. And I know there were some people still in the city because we go back to it and they're working at the bar and whatever
Right.
it may be. But I was like, this is a really small evacuation.
Yeah, that I get that nitpick, to be honest. It's kind of funny because it does the way they show this scene. It's like, wow, this is kind of getting to be a sprawling place. And yeah, here we are. Maybe they're all on a mission to bring more supplies or something. Who knows? Maybe they're off at
Right.
vacation week. And so they're all going to, to the casino planet there in Canto
Yeah.
Bight.
Right. So, anyways, back to Captain Carson. So
Right.
he sees Zeb and he's like, I gotta go get help from the New Republic, which is like also, I feel like it kind of takes back to the point where I'm saying like this lack of urgency. It's like we're going here, then here, then here, then here just to get here. But I get why the episode's doing it. It's to set up Zeb. We can see Zeb. It's to set up the New Republic and to kind of understand its inner workings, and it's to set up the big bad, obviously. So we get him to the New Republic offices, which are like super. I love this, and we get freaking Tim Meadows, which is like such an iconic random. I love this casting.
Yeah, I did too. This one took me back to. I realized when I looked it up later on that they mentioned that Tim Meadows was cast at one point, but I completely forgot about it.
Yeah, totally.
So I saw like Tim Meadows is in this. Okay, but he played a perfect kind of character for him. He played this like kind of like bumbling bureaucrat. I mean, not quite bumbling, but not very effective, I would say, bureaucrat. And it showcases exactly what we need to see of the New Republic. That's why the people like Carson Teva are going to be so important, because Carson Teva obviously is the kind of precursor of what we eventually get with Leia and the Resistance down the line, the people who think the New Republic aren't taking things seriously. We need to have these other people like Tim Meadows, who is kind of like, they mean well, but they're just not very effective at what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, I like this. I thought some of the dialogue was times I was like, yes, that's a great line. And sometimes I'm like, okay, you're telling us what's gonna happen. We know that we've connected the dots that Moff Gideon and the pirates and the Republic are with the Imperial remnants are connected somehow. Especially with Katie O'Brien's character, who so clearly is a snake. I'm like, are we all like, if I'm in the room with her, I'm like, you're a snake, you're a snitch, I don't trust you. Like, why are you trying so hard to be like, oh, if you should have been with the New Republic, now we're gonna let these people suffer? And Tim Meadows' character is like, yeah, I guess that's the reality.
Yeah, absolutely. Captain Teva was the audience there, though, because he had the same look like the, yeah, come on now, what are you doing there?
Yeah, totally. He was so me. I was like snarling, like yeah. But yeah, Katie O'Brien's great. I'm like, you are such a good villain type look and feel to her character. But I like that one line that Teva said when he's like, by the time you guys help, it's gonna be too late.
Right.
And I thought that was pretty effective. But that leads us back to the Mandalorians.
Right.
Which it was worth it. Like, I like that connection, but I'm like, we're doing like this ping pong effect here. But
well, yeah, let me interject. I would say, like, in a way, what you're saying is that it bothers you because it's kind of not pushing forward quickly enough in a way. But in a way, isn't that what it's trying to tell us? Because we're supposed to feel that. We're like, God, they got to hurry this up. They got to get back to where Grief Karga is getting his ass kicked in a way. So the fact that they're not going fast enough, it's almost like they're letting us feel that same feeling we're supposed to feel, that Grief's feeling, that, God, someone's got to come help us. Why aren't they going fast enough in a way?
I think, like, in my first thoughts, I'm like, okay, I feel like we could have gone from A to D immediately, but in hindsight, I'm like, I get why we went A, B, C, D, because we're leading to this like finale with Moff Gideon and like the rest of the pirates, whoever survived, and some of them left, and then really understanding the New Republic and how it might have gotten infiltrated and the different degrees of allegiances, like I said,
sabotage from within.
Yeah. So we get back to the Mandalorians, which I love how they all came out like dang gang, like why are you here? Right. They're so secretive.
Right.
I kind of like I'm private too. I'm like, if you come into my area, I'm like, why are you here? Who are you? Who sent you? Um, but we get this message, and I like this moment of leadership from Din because I feel like we haven't gotten that as much. We've gotten all the moments of leadership from Bo-Katan thus far, which
Yeah.
I love because Din is more in this daddy mode, which I totally get, but he still to me is a leader. And like I
Yeah.
in my dream world it'd be Bo and Din together. By the end of this episode, I don't think that's what we're gonna get.
Nope.
But I do like how Din steps up and is like, we can't keep living in the shadows. Like our
Right.
children have to be able to feel the sunlight, which is funny because y'all don't take off any of your gear, so you actually don't really feel the sunlight. But I get it metaphorically. I get it metaphorically.
Might be a foreshadowing, actually, the way we go at the end of the episode. So it could be a foreshadowing. But I want to actually
That's
throw out real
what?
quick. I love the little mention they have when Greek because Carson tracked R5, his former partner in
Oh
rebellion. I
yeah,
love that
yeah.
nod with R5. That story at a certain point of view where R5 was like a rebel droid. I love that Dave Filoni and Favreau both, they kind of do that all the time. They sprinkle these little bits of canon that maybe people don't recognize from the past, that kind of rewards those who have done the deeper dive on things. So I love that
Right.
aspect of it.
I did too. I did too. And then, okay, I don't know about y'all. I didn't get to talk to you last episode. Um, and I don't think I've talked enough about how I feel about Paz Vizsla. I can't stand Paz Vizsla. I think he's such a dumb big brute, and every time he opens his mouth, I'm like, "Oh, here we go again." So after Din gave this like beautiful speech, like we gotta go, we gotta help people, and we gotta live in freedom, I was like, hell yeah. And then this guy comes up, and I made an audible like, I was like, I swear to God, if this isn't a character arc moment for him after these guys saved his little idiot son, I'm gonna flip out. And then it was. So then it
Right.
was. Paz Vizsla made a full return, which is cool in hindsight when you think about the history of the Vislas and the history with them and the other Mandalorians, and kind of like where I think he thought he was going to be as a character and where he should be, which is
Right.
just like for the people instead of like trying to grandstand. So I like that. And I also like the fact that they use the hammer as the talking stick.
That's a different kind of speak. That makes sense though for the Mandalorians, though, right? I mean, they don't need a speaking stick; they need to talk with a big hammer. That's what they do.
Yeah, right, right.
Thor would have been a Mandalorian, I think, at some point.
I know. Like it's so funny. Like when they did that, I was like, are they using that to say that they're talking? Okay, okay, I get it. I
Yeah.
get it. I love it. I love it.
I did love that moment too, and I am a big fan of how Paz has developed. And again, I kind of saw it coming a little bit because they set it up with them saving Ragnar the previous week. But the turnaround was still effective and still got that cheap pop, that like almost wrestling cheap pop for me. When he turns around and he goes, "Why should we do this?" Pause. Because we're Mandalorians. It's like, F yeah.
Yes, yes. I was like, okay, finally this guy's on the right page. Like,
Right.
geez, took a while, but we finally got him there after 3 seasons. But so they finally decide that they're all gonna pull up and fight for this city, and we get then taken back to the pirate ship again, and we get kind of a bigger look at Captain Gorian, and it is funny how much he looks like Swamp Thing.
Kale Organa, that's what John Hovey called him. I love that. I love that.
That's funny. Totally. Totally. But I love this part from Bo-Katan's character when she kind of gets them all like strategized and how they're gonna go about it. And then I was like, okay, now this is the scene that we got in the trailer of all the Mandalorians flying over the city,
Right.
and this was gonna be it. So I loved the part where they were like, the odds are 10-1, and Din's like, I like that. I was like, yeah, buddy.
Badass stuff. Yeah,
Come on,
absolutely.
cocky. Yeah.
Oh, I love that whole thing when the Mandalorians drop down and you get the fighting on the drunken pirates. Everything about this action sequence just flipped the right switch for me. For everything, you had like the nice moments where Paz Vizsla drops down with the big old gun, which I love seeing, of course, the big old blaster gun. You got the humorous moments with the Anzelians and with the snitch Kowakian monkey lizard pointing out the ambush coming. It was a fun action sequence, something we need every once in a while.
Yeah, once we got really moving on that, I was like, this action sequence rocks. Like
Right,
seeing the different ways the Mandalorians were attacking on the ground, in the air, with the ships. I think Bo and Din are just such a great partnership.
right.
And I love how they work together, both in the air like that. And I love seeing Grogu just like riding with Daddy, like
Yeah.
blowing up things, just like ready for business. Uh, but, I thought seeing the ending scene where the pirate ship blew up, I thought this was just, like, a really great action sequence.
Oh
I loved
yeah.
it. I thought the effects looked great too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all had some. Everybody had their moments. The armor had that badass moment. Like she comes in with the hammers,
Right.
taking out pirates left and right. Like she's like, I don't know, she's King Kong. Like boom, boom. Yeah, nothing on
Totally, but
me.
I was like, "Girlie, you need a gun."
Right?
Like
I was like, wait for them to turn a big gun on her. Then what's what you do? But
right, then what are you gonna do? It was badass, but, like, I was like, "Come on." Like,
absolutely.
realistically, that's what we're doing? But it was sick when you see her, like, throw that guy off, and then she's just there like, "Okay, we're in. We're in. Locked and loaded."
Absolutely, absolutely. Of course, we gotta sit those super chats in there. We'll definitely collect them and end our show talking about all your questions here. But to continue on, I thought my favorite moment of the action sequence was when Din and starts flying back to the ship. They had the dogfight. He starts blowing.
Yes.
You had a Vane being like, "He's below you. He's above you. He's there. He's here.
Yeah.
He's there. He's every effing where Din Jar at that point."
I love that part because I thought that was really smart strategically because he
Right,
was drawing them out, and then they're like, "No, they're drawing us out. There's another one." Like, they thought they were getting tricked, and
right,
then they were getting tricked again because then
right.
he just came back and they had 2 guns on them.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I like the Gorian Shan moment as well. I didn't know if you picked up on it, but I loved the Captain Hook and Smee angle they had with the Ugnaught, little Ugnaught being his like number one in there. They had this whole Captain Hook and Smee angle on the ship. It felt like that the
Yeah.
dynamic they were going for, which I love. Little nods like that always make me smile.
Totally, totally, yeah, it was sometimes it did feel like I was at Disneyland, like,
I can see
watching,
that.
like, a really cool exhibit with all the way that their makeup and stuff was done. I did think the one pirate that continues to look the best to me is the one who ended up dipping. He's like, "Oh,
Right.
y'all are about to die, I'm out."
Absolutely.
He
Absolutely.
his, makeup looks, like, incredible.
Yeah, I think they chose to do that specifically. Sometimes you can kind of like I don't want to say cheapen out, but he's the one they're focusing on a little bit. I think
Right.
obviously he's going to come back, so you really have to hammer him down. I personally am hoping that he's flying off to meet another pirate king. I'm hoping we get a little bit of Hondo Anaka at some point because I've been waiting for
Oh,
that forever.
I love Hondo.
Love Hondo. So
I love Hondo.
I'm on
So
Hondo
great.
watch. Hondo watch 2023. When do we get Hondo back in the
Yes.
Star Wars universe?
Yes, start the hashtag. But then finally we close out with one of my favorite parts about the episode when the armor calls Bo-Katan in. And last week she told her about the mythosaur, and obviously you can't see the armorer's face, but she had like no expression.
Right.
And I was like, "You're not gonna think this is, like, crazy at all," but clearly she's been sleeping on it, and then seeing the way Bo has now fought for them
Yeah.
and won them over more than one time and done so valiantly, so she says this, like, really great line about how Bo walks both paths,
Right.
and she can walk both sides of it, and this is, like, kind of this is the way. That, like, she's gonna connect different sectors of Mandalorians, and so whereas they thought like they lived in fear kind of like we have to like be zealots and like kind of connect so religiously and intensely and anyone who doesn't isn't a true Mandalorian. I love that we're stopping that and kind of extending it out to be like it's okay if you don't want to live this way. We still are all Mandalorians.
Oh, absolutely. I like how they do it as well. I agree with you. I saw the entire thing last week when she kind of almost like she was like, okay, dear. Yeah, you saw him at this work. Go ahead. But does she seem to process it more now? And she seems to come back and it's like, oh, maybe this is exactly where we're supposed to go. I got to be honest. I got a little like firsthand nervousness when she says, take off your helmet. I'm
Right.
like,
I was like, is this a trick?
are you tricking her? Is she gonna go like you take off the helmet, go fooled you? You shouldn't do that, and that's like I didn't know what's going on there. But the fact that she did that means okay, we're taking a big step forward now. They're taking a big step forward. They're finding a new home. They're out of the skulking of the caves. They're walking into the light. It's the time to recruit all the Mandalorians to come back together, and that gives us that focus that some people are lacking for the end of this season. We're retaking Mandalore with Bo uniting the people. Now, where does that leave Din? I don't know.
I know, but Din gave her the head nod, so I'm like, whatever Din's rolling with, I'm rolling with. If Din thinks that she can do this, I'm with Din. I'm
I
like,
agree. The question comes up with the dark saber though, because Din
right.
still has that dark saber, and
And like,
while the Mandalorians seem to be okay with what I mean, they were kind of like hesitant with Armor saying she's taking off her helmet and going off. Is it not having the dark saber, somebody else having the dark saber, is that a step too far for them?
right, this is when the rules get convoluted because everyone's a hypocrite, right?
Right,
Bo used to make fun of them for keeping on their helmets, like, oh, that's how serious you are, or whatever. But then her people wouldn't follow her if she didn't win the dark saber, which
right,
is like you can't just get to pick and choose what part of the lore you play into. And then the only way that she would actually win it is if she killed Din.
right.
So it like opens up these big question marks. And also I just feel like that's Din's now. So but she does know how to use that thing. That's
Much
for
better than Din
sure.
does. Much better than
Right.
Din does.
Right. Right. So now she's on this quest to find the rest of the Mandalorians, connect the Mandalorians, but it leaves us with the big question because going back to Captain Teva, he saw that Moff Gideon's ship, he was taken out of it and everyone in it was killed and there was Beskar left in it.
Yeah,
So it leads the question, what do you think, PLD? Do you think this is a setup to make it look like it was the Mandalorians? Do you think it was a sector of the Mandalorians that are like, screw Moff Gideon, he ruined Mandalore? Or do you think that maybe it's like a sector of Mandalorians who are like, he once wielded the dark saber?
right.
Like,
It could be something exactly like that. So we know that Bo's crew left to become, mercenaries, as she said, but we don't know if that's necessarily true. This is what she knows. They might have gotten fed up with Bo giving up, so to speak. So who else has held the dark saber? Moff Gideon. Maybe this is Bo's old crew who decided to unite under somebody else who was possibly stronger, who could possibly maybe give them what they wanted. It could be anybody. There's also, with the whole idea of this leading towards this whole Rebels sequels, eventually, obviously with Filoni, is this Gar Saxon's family or that sect of Mandalorians.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
a lot of different possibilities out there. And you know what? We don't even know. Is this where Boba Fett comes back into play?
right. Right.
There's a
There's a
lot of
lot
angles.
of questions there that lead up to it, but overall I think it was a great episode in so as that it sets up the rest of the season really well. I'm
Yeah.
like really excited. I wish the Moff Gideon stuff was more on screen than off
Yeah.
screen, but
I get
I
that.
get why they're doing it, I guess, because of kind of the secrecy, but it's interesting that a lot of the main things for the Mandalorian have been off screen of the Mandalorian. Like we've had stuff in Book of Boba be like main plot points for the Mandalorian, and like stuff with Moff Gideon, it's off screen. So it's cool. I mean, that really does, I feel like, add more to the idea that we are in this connected universe because shows aren't as specifically for themselves. It's
Right.
everything's connected.
As we are going forward, we are branching things out slowly but surely. So I feel we're going to get that at times. It might not be right away. We might not see what's coming up, but eventually we will get what we need.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and it was funny when I was watching the pirate, the Gorian, Swamp Thing, I was like, "Who hurt you? Why are you pulling up like this? Like, you should have talked to someone growing up." Reminded me of when I was like, "You need some tools, man, because you don't know how to even communicate with people." When I was a kid, I was a wild young buck. I was super emotional, and one of the tools that my mom taught me was to count to 10 whenever I was getting really angry and I would get into She-Hulk mode. So I would count to 10 in my head. And that was like my first major tool where I was like, oh, okay, I'm like becoming a better person, or like I'm kind of understanding my emotions more and I can do better with this. Do better. This episode is brought to us by BetterHelp, and I say this because getting to know ourselves and like figuring out ourselves and finding the tools that we can to help us get better is so imperative. And one of like the greatest tools you could possibly use to know yourself better and get better is therapy. It's all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding yourself, because sometimes we don't understand why we're acting a certain way or why we're thinking a certain way, but then when we talk things through, we're like, oh, okay, like I kind of understand now. So that's what BetterHelp is there for. It connects you with a licensed therapist who you can take on this journey of self discovery and finding these tools for yourself. And I know a lot of my friends who are actually using BetterHelp and have used therapy in the past, and it's been a great resource for them. And I think it's an incredible resource available all online, which makes it very available to us, which I think that's part of the hard parts about therapy is having something available. It's hard to get to, but since it is digital, it's amazing that we can just do it through betterhelp.com. So you can discover your potential with BetterHelp. You can visit betterhelp.com/, the big thing today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/big thing. It's super convenient, flexible, it's suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire and you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can even switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So all of this makes it super easy to get help, which I am such a fan of. And many people in The Mandalorian probably would have done a lot better with BetterHelp, including my fave Grogu. I wasn't here we didn't get to talk last episode, but with his flashback, I'm like, Grogu needs better help.
Tell you what, I need better help after the Bad Batch episodes, which we're going to talk about soon. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, why don't we jump into the Bad Batch episode, because we are getting really near to its finale. So what did you think about last night's episode?
Well, we hit the 2-episode finale. Yeah, this is the 2-episode finale, and I was worried that this might be the series finale. But after this episode, these 2 episodes, I should say, we're getting a season 3. And if we don't get a season 3, I'm going to be very, very angry.
It's not the penultimate. Those were the 2-episode finale.
They dropped the 2-episode finale at once.
That's right.
And I got to tell you, some people are sleeping on the Bad Batch. They got checked out a little bit potentially. And I feel like they are doing themselves a great disservice. This is Dave Filoni's. I know Dave Filoni's not in charge of this necessarily. He's still the executive producer. It's his masterclass. He drips things out, but when it hits those moments, and he hits them hard. This is Star Wars at its best. It's a small story about family, but he tears your heart out at times. So much happened in these episodes that wasn't exactly what I thought was going to go down. We get to see. Let's be honest. I'm going to spoil something for you if you're okay with that stuff. I know you haven't seen it. Are you okay with spoilers? Are you okay?
Yes.
With spoilers? Okay. We have lost a Bad Batcher. We lost a Bad Batcher last night. Tech, rest in peace. Tech is killed off in a heroic fashion, in such a way, such a heartbreaking way. I had tears flowing from my eyes. I'm a 46-year-old man crying like a little baby because I'm watching Tech fall to his death, saying, like, they're ordering him to get back up from this car path that's over. He's got this car rail. He's hanging off the edge, and Tech's like, he's hanging off. They can't get him up. And he's like, when have we ever followed orders? And he sacrifices himself to save the day. And we watch Omega go through heartbreak like she's never gone through before. And Dave Filoni and crew and all the people involved ripped my heart out anew. But what a great couple of episodes. That was just the lead off for me. The whole episode basically is we decide we have to go to where Hemlock is, the Dr. Hemlock. He's going to the summit meeting with Tarkin. The Bad Batch find this out. They want to track him back to the home planet, or to his planet where Mount Tantus is, where Crosshair is. They're going to break him out. We get to see some spoilers, some surprise appearances in the Empire here. We get Hurst Ramadi from Rogue One. We get Admiral Coburn, the general from the Clone Wars, is still around the Empire. And we get Orson Krennic, as voiced by Ben Mendelsohn, in this sequence with Tarkin. A lot of sprinklings of different things. And when the Bad Batch, they get together, they attack this summit meeting to get to the plane. We get to find out another rebellion group is also there. Surprise, surprise. Pulling off a stormtrooper helmet, we discover that Saw Gerrera is on scene. So we have Saw Gerrera on scene, messing up the plans of the Bad Batch, because they're there to put a homing beacon on the ship of Hemlock. Saw's there to blow up the summit. Obviously, it's not going to work out very well for either of them. So they leave the place. They try to go in place. The explosion does take place. So we end up losing the chance to get to Hemlock. We have to lose everything. Tech pretty much gives up his life for nothing. Well, Saw gets away, but nobody ever died. Like Tarkin's crew is all safe in their little bunker up top. So unfortunately, Saw's plan is for naught. Really, it's just like they say. Tech even tells them, "Your plan is for naught. Your plan. They're gonna even if you kill people, they're just gonna replenish." That's what Saw does, though. Saw is gonna saw. Then the end.
Saw gonna saw.
Tech goes down. The Bad Batch get away. They go back to Sid's to kind of help us. Omega gets a little hurt. They try to heal up. They go back to Sid because it's the only place they know because AZ is there. AZ can help with the medical aspect, something they probably don't have on Pabu. AZ is that great medical droid. And then it happens, of course, what has been planned out for the entire season. Sid turns on the Bad Batch and calls the Empire in. Because she has called the bad. They have brought stuff. Yes, they have brought the bad. They have brought problems to her homestand. She seems very upset about it. Like she's not exactly feeling good about it.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Snitch.
Exactly. They turn him in. Omega tries to run away. They grab Hunter. They grab Wrecker. Echo's on the loose. And then, of course, the Hunter orders Omega to run away. But is she going to run away? Is she ever going to leave anybody behind? She never leaves anybody behind. And Omega tries to break them out. Unfortunately, it does not work out for them. Hunter and Wrecker do eventually get away, but Hemlock has taken Omega back to Mount Tantus. So Omega is a prisoner of Hemlock at the end of the episode. We have Hunter, Wrecker, and we have Echo. They're going to have to make their stand. And we obviously know now that season 3 is coming because season 3 will be about the search for Omega, the rescue of Omega. Hunter and Wrecker want to retire, but they have to get Omega back. And the final aspect, we have Omega meets up with Emery, the doctor there, not the Dr. Hemlock, but his like assistant there, the one sounded a lot like Omega. And she reveals to Omega that she is her sister. Whole lot of stuff happening.
On next week on Maury.
Right. Absolutely. So, I mean, they just had a big episode of finale of epic proportions. Crosshair still in Mount Tantus with Omega. The Bad Batch are all splintered. We're setting up an amazing season 3. This is Star Wars animation at its best. So.
Yeah, I really do think the second half of the season has gotten way better. And like the stakes were higher, it was less adventure of the weeky. But in hindsight, it's like because of what happens, you kind of understand. Like we had that pod racing episode with Tech, right? Remember that one where we're like, okay, I like Tech having a little bit of shine here, but this feels a little kiddie and gamey. But I think it just adds more to the range that is Tech and giving him more of that moment to really get his character.
That's what Dave Filoni and the animation crew always does. They have these episodes which feel like they might not be important, but they really develop the character. They're telling you, they're giving you what you need to know. So later on, you can have these emotional attachments. And then when Tech does have this moment, it blows you away. You feel that. If you didn't get those moments, it's kind of like, oh, it's another clone dead. Yeah. You got to feel for Tech. You got to love Tech. You had that episode. You had the episode with in the caverns where he obviously was like a little neurodivergent. He processes things differently. We're getting with Tech, and then we get that torn away because Dave Filoni knows how to do that. He gives you something, and he knows how to tear that Band-Aid off to hurt you at your core.
Yes. Thank you, PLD, for reporting live for us. And also, please keep sending in your super chats. We want to read them all at the end. We're just going to cover a few stories, and then we're going to get to all of the super chats that have been sent. So send those in right now so we can answer any of your questions. We would love to hear from you and love your support. Speaking of other news, we're just going to really briefly talk about the Acolyte, Jodie Turner-Smith. She's working with director Kogonada, and she speaks a little bit about her time on set on the Acolyte. She said, obviously, the subject matter is different. It's different when everything that you're doing is lighthearted, and that's not what I was doing for Star Wars. But I was working with my favorite director that I've worked with so far, Kogonada, and under the leadership of Leslie Headland. It's so incredible to see. I can't wait to see how this show turns out. By the way, this is from Star Wars Newsnet. They're the best. Go check it out if you haven't already. She continues, Amanda Stenberg is such an incredible performer. I unfortunately didn't have any scenes with her, but I got to see a little bit of what they've been doing, and I think it's going to be epic, and it's nothing that anyone has seen before inside of that universe. And then when asked about wielding a lightsaber or any cool weapons, she said, I didn't get to use a lightsaber, but I did, and then stopped and said, not get to use a lightsaber, which it's like that pretty clearly is insinuating that she is one of our Siths, which is epic, and it makes me so excited. And I think that the whole article kind of points to that, because if she wasn't on set with Amandala, as we know is going to be a Jedi apprentice, then it kind of makes it pretty clear that she's not on the Jedi side. So this is exciting for a few reasons. Like, Jodie Turner-Smith, I love. She's worked with a lot of great directors, and for her to be so excited about her work with Kogonada is really exciting to me. And just like to hear her talk about how dark and gritty this is going to be, I know Kristian is probably very happy while he's healing to hear this.
Absolutely. I love this article as well. Well, I think Star Wars is a place for every kind of genre storytelling, and that's the best thing. So we get this darker story. We have a little bit of the lighter side with some of the other stories, a little more of the fun Star Wars soup, as Kristian says about Mandalorian. This is going to be a dark side story, and I mean, I'm here for it. So it's going to be great.
Yes, I'm definitely here for it. I am also here for things that give me more energy, because one thing about me, I'm a sleepy woman. I am like always tired. So I've been looking for so long for anything that is easy and will give me more energy. And I'm serious. AG1 is this. Our next partner is AG1 by Athletic Greens. I take it all the time. I gave AG1 a try because, like I said, I'm tired. I was born tired. And I am really a big on my health. Health is very important to me, as it should be for everybody, as it is the only thing that we have until we die. So being healthy and keeping a healthy immune system, especially in this winter time. I don't know about y'all, but LA has been cold and rainy, and I don't really love taking pills every single day. And I definitely don't love things that don't taste good, which a lot of supplements usually don't taste good. So these are just some of the reasons why AG1 rocks, because it actually tastes good. It's super simple and it's all in one. So it is just like a great, easy thing that I'm like, oh, okay, like adding all of these extra good things for me is, I only have to do it in one take. That's wonderful. And I get to take it with water, which I mix it with water, which is like, oh, I get more water in my day. Yes, queen. And it's really, I do feel the difference in terms of my energy levels. I haven't gotten sick this winter, knock on wood. I feel like that can't not have nothing to do with it. So my immune system is feeling great because of AG1. And you can definitely tell that it was designed with this ease in mind. And for people like me who just want to be healthier and have more energy, but not have to think about it so many times a day, or have to taste something that's gross, it actually just tastes good. So if you're looking for an easier way to take supplements, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1 year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to athleticgreens.com/big thing. That's athleticgreens.com/big thing. Check it out. Yes.
Absolutely.
And it's great, and it gets delivered to you, so you don't have to even go to a store or or you just have to make the order once, and then you can get it delivered to you without thinking. Which I'm like, less think, more do. This is the way.
I'm getting older every day, so I could definitely use a little boost here and there. So
Yeah, yeah. Don't we all? I'm like, girl, I'm tired. Life is hard. I need energy to deal with y'all. Not y'all though, because I love you. And speaking of you guys, I want to get to our super chats right now. PLD, do you have those?
I believe our tech person behind the scenes, our man behind the screen, Mr. Sheridan. Hi, Brett. He's going to be popping up some stuff on here for super chat wise. Got some good ones in the chat. There we go.
So this is from Liam O'Toole. Thank you, Liam.
Thank you
So,
Liam.
Naboo guards pick up Grogu. Palpatine is from Naboo. Do you think it's possible this is another element to the cloning arcs from Bad Batch and Mando, and they're using to clean up Rise of Skywalker? PLD, what do you think?
I think it possibly could be. I mean, I don't know. clean up Rise of Skywalker. That's an opinion thing. But of course, I think the whole Mandalorian universe has been kind of slowly making its way towards that direction as far as from the Bad Batch cloning stuff, the Mando cloning stuff with Din, it's all, or with Grogu rather, it's all kind of leaning towards Palpatine being cloned with Snoke. I think it's all one direct line of communication. So I do think that could absolutely play something, play a little bit in charge of that, because I like where that's going. And I like the idea of hooking Naboo into it potentially. So good call, Liam. I like that.
Yeah, I think that they're doing a lot. No, I don't think a lot. I think when it makes sense, they are adding things into different shows and future movies that clean up the Rise of Skywalker cloning story.
Right.
And so I think that possibly, but I also think that they're kind of trying to stay away from the cloning story in a sense, minus Bad Batch, which is kind of hit on it more because they are dealing with the clone troopers. So yeah, it's a good point, Liam, but I'm not totally sure exactly where they're going with the whole Naboo guards and Grogu. Where obviously that's not the last flashback we'll see.
Yeah,
I
definitely
don't
not.
think.
Got to get more from Keller and Beck and figure
Yeah,
out where he is at
right,
this point.
right. This is from Mike Joyce. Am I the only one shipping Din and Bo? Them and Grogu is the Star Wars family I want to see. Mike, honestly, I would be lying to y'all if I didn't say I haven't thought about it a lot. I like want to be not that type of person who's watching Star Wars waiting to ship things, but I'm also like the original trilogy was a love story too, in a lot of ways. So it does feel like love and romance is intertwined in Star Wars, even though it might not be the most important thing. But I don't think it's gonna happen, but definitely they would be a power couple.
I mean, it's shown during the training of Grogu, they had that kind of father, mother, child thing going on potentially. But
Yeah.
I think the dark sabers might come between them. But who knows? You never know. If Pedro gets to take off that helmet, you got Pedro Pascal. I mean, Bo-Katan. Come on now. This is a couple made in heaven at this point, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So thank you, Mike Joyce. We got Haskell 420 who says Moff's setting up the Mandos to make it look like they broke him out. He knows they're powerful when united. Having the Republic believe it was them keeps them distracted from his and assume Thrawn. Definitely, I feel like this is more where I'm more towards leaning because Moff obviously has access or had access to Beskar
Mhm.
with his past, so he could easily make it look like this. The good news is that Captain Teva already saw he had to go to Din. So he saw a sector of the Mandalorians that clearly didn't have anything to do with Moff unless he has this like huge conspiracy spiral.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point. I think it could be. They could be putting it up. It also it just seems like it's setting up a lot of different A versus B versus C versus D. Like, the Mandalorians versus trying to take over Mandalore, having to fight Moff Gideon, the Republic blaming the Mandalorians possibly. So the Republic fighting Moff Gideon and fighting the Mandalorians. Everybody kind of fighting their own battle. And of course, out of that chaos is when evil can arise. So maybe that is where
Totally.
Thrawn comes back. Maybe Moff is
That's
working
what
with
they
Thrawn.
do in real life, y'all. They try to divide us because we're stronger together. The haters know. We got Maddie Gunner who says, I'll be sending my therapy bill to Dave Filoni. LOL.
Maddie Gunner, my partner on Holy Snooks podcast I do on PLD projects. He's my Star Wars compatriot. Yeah, he's hurting after the Bad Batch episodes.
I saw another funny comment from Maddie Gunner. Oh, I don't know where it went. It was like, anyways, Maddie, thank you.
He's here for Han to watch too. That was the
Yeah, maybe. Voyager, Steph, do you discuss Star Wars on other podcast show? Not really. Like this is the only show I deep dive Star Wars on. I will definitely talk about Star Wars trailers and major things, sometimes on the World Girls, sometimes on Cinepals. So it just really depends. But if you want to hear me deep dive Star Wars, it's only on Sith Council.
There you go. Perfect.
That's it.
All right.
Okay. If you guys have any other last minute super chats that you want to get in and we'll answer your question, we would really appreciate that. Oh, we have another one coming in from Ethan Nicholas, who says, great ep. First time I thought of them like this, but the Mandos really are Navy SEALs. Badass. Yeah, kind of. Definitely. They definitely are like Because if you've seen Clone Wars, or yeah, that's mainly where you'll see, or and Rebels too, but the Mandalorians, when they're fighting the Jedi, it's like the closest thing you have to real competition with Jedis.
Absolutely, because they can fight off the lightsaber, the dark sabers. I love the shields they have. They're
They
really a
have more
badass
tools
crew.
too.
That's right, and they can hammer. They can hammer like a son of a bitch.
Yeah, they have hammers, they have shields that they use,
Right,
they have like different blasters that they'll use too, depending who it is. They can fly. Jedis can basically fly, but
right.
yeah, they're equipped.
Absolutely, absolutely love it so much. So.
They're equipped. So I think that wraps up our episode, PLD.
I think so too. I think so too.
Thank y'all so much for hanging out with us. Before you go, remember that we're on the road to 100K subscribers. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button, send it to all your friends, your family, anyone who likes. We have great content about really so much movies, TV, Star Wars, anything that y'all want to talk about. Brett and Kristian doing the dumbest, best jokes ever. You should definitely hit the subscribe button. Also on Spotify, if you haven't done so already, we're dropping episodes weekly there. We would love your support. Check out our merch if you haven't done so already, and make sure you get your tickets for the live show at Flappers, which are available now. I will be there. We will all be there. It will be so fun. I'm so excited for this. I haven't done a live show like this, or I don't think a lot of us have, in a really long time. So it'd be great to be together and to be with you guys in the audience who get those tickets if you haven't already. All of that is in the description below. And PLD, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. It was an honor to have an actual show with you for an
I
episode.
know, it
So,
was so fun.
so fun.
And thank you to the legend Brett Sheridan, who is running the ones and twos in the back. We appreciate him. And I'm Steph Sabraw. I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me today. Make sure you hit the like button and leave a comment below on your favorite part about the episode, or you can compliment me. I'm always down for that. Anything you want in the in the comments, I appreciate. Let Kristian know that you give him some well-wishing thoughts so he heals quickly and comes back. And I will see y'all next week with hopefully the whole crew again. And I hope something good happens to you today. Much love. This is the Sith Council.
I can